I'm Venice, your host, and here at your Entrepreneur Resources, we discover the no-fluff action steps to help you avoid all the overwhelm and all the BS out there, connecting you with the right mentors, resources, and tools, helping you every step of the way on your entrepreneurial journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business. So make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your Entrepreneur Resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. We have a really special guest with us today. It is Jennifer Sargeant. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Jennifer launched her digital marketing freelance business, Digital Sargeant, in 2021, and now teaches freelancers how to start and grow their business with Freelance and Financial Freedom Blueprint. In this interview with Jennifer, we're going to be talking about starting a social media marketing business from zero and what core elements should be set in place before getting started. Such a great topic, but before we get started, do you mind telling us a little bit more about you and your business?
Sure. Thank you. So I've been in the digital marketing industry for nearly 11 years, but when the pandemic hit, I needed to do something quick to make money for my family. So I launched my freelance digital marketing business, Digital Sargeant, and was able to grow it to 6 figures. So I'm very proud of that. But in the process, I found that there are a lot of other freelancers who didn't really know how to price themselves, how to get clients, how to conduct negotiations or discovery calls. So that's why I created Freelance and Financial Freedom Blueprint. And the transformations have been amazing in the program. So I teach freelancers how to do digital marketing and how to grow their business using my exact blueprint that I use for my business.
That is so amazing. I love that. What made you decide to focus on social media rather than other areas of business?
So I just started creating content because I come from a digital marketing background. So there's many
Mm.
facets of digital marketing underneath that umbrella. And I just started producing content and really just starting to position myself in the industry. And I waited for the market to tell me what they needed and what they wanted. So I found myself really working primarily in social media marketing, just based off of what my client acquisition process was and people were asking me to do for their business. So I pivoted towards that. I have launched a few website designs and things like that, but it's been mostly consulting and social media marketing.
Oh my gosh, I just want to point out so many great things that you just mentioned. But before we do that, I do want to hear the core elements that you have to share about when it comes to starting a social media marketing business.
So there are a couple of core elements that you want to keep in consideration. Some are talked about quite a bit. Some are not talked about enough.
Mm.
And the first one is to not operate in a scarcity mindset. So if you have a prospect that's coming to you and your gut is telling you this person is going to be a nightmare, but you want the money and you want the experience, you're better off just letting them sail into the sunset because it's not going to be worth your time or your energy or your effort. Trust me, been there, done that. And if you decide to go yes and go against your gut, that'll probably be the last time you do it. So I try to, really advocate that, don't work in a scarcity mindset. Secondly, you really want to protect yourself. Make sure you have your LLC or any sort of business legality aspects, so that way your personal assets and your business assets are totally covered. And if you find yourself in a tango like that, at least you know you have your business covered
Mhm.
and your personal assets covered. And also a contract.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be this insane contract that you have to get from a lawyer or something like that. There's so many resources online these days. So you can find great general service contracts online and edit them for you and for yourself, and make sure that the business owner signs the contract and signs their proposal. So that way everything is taken care of there. And the
Mhm.
last thing is no money, no work. So get paid upfront and then do the things. So that's
Mm.
really important and something that I really structure my business around. If you want me to work for you, first you have to pay me upfront, and then I'll work for you. I'll do the things, and that's how the relationship goes. But so many times I've seen people get in situations where they do the work, they put in all this effort, and then their counterpart doesn't pay them or refuses to pay them for whatever reason. And I will help you get through that process with my negotiation tactics, but it's not, if you can avoid that tango, then let's avoid it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, there's such great elements. I love them. Let us dive a little bit deeper from maybe the first one about scarcity, not operating in a scarcity mindset. So I know that a lot of people really suffer from this. I'm sure I did too. Like, I maybe still do actually. How do you kind of go about it? Because I know it's easier said than done. And when it comes to, scarcity, it's constantly around us, right? Especially with like our different marketing strategies that people teach these days. So what are some tips you have regarding, like kind of overcoming that issue and this element, like focusing on this?
Yeah, so really just boils down to really knowing who you are and being honest with yourself. It's more of like a soul searching and self-awareness practice and journey to go through, because at the end of the day, like only you know what you're able to add onto your plate. And I have a lot of non-negotiables in business, but one is my time. Like if somebody is not worthy of my time, then they don't get it. So just plain and simple, like my time is very expensive. Even if I want to carve out time to do something fun, like that to me is like expensive, but it's worth it. So if, to be an entrepreneur, it's so important that you're self-aware and that and you're honest with yourself and you know what you can add to your plate and you don't add to your plate. And I get it. I mean, I just had a situation recently where it was like, this is a really great opportunity and the income stream is amazing, but there's just too many variables that are not lining up with how I want to operate, and I'm going to have to let this go. And it was hard, but I was honest with myself. And it's not like I didn't have another prospect fall into my wheel, because more will come. If you continue to keep it up, like more people will come. So it's just like reminding yourself of that. And the first person you turn down is going to be a little bit scary, because you're going to ask yourself, will there be more? And there will be. There'll be more. So
yeah. How do you have any tips on how to kind of like define whether or not a client or an opportunity is valuable to you? I know it depends on the person, but how did you manage to come to the conclusion that that's not worth your time?
Yes. So in my coaching program, I go through this in really great detail, but a couple of high level things that we can go over are, if somebody, and I kind of laugh about this because it just happened recently, but if somebody can't figure out how to book a call with you, using like a simple calendar link, and then they're
Right.
like, hey, it didn't work, can you just book a call with me that way? That's might be a flag. I will still do it and I will still take the call. But what I'm really seeing is that this person is being like controlling in how they get in to meet with you. A couple other things is that like on the discovery call, I pay really close attention to the tone and to the things that they're saying. And I'll ask them like, well, what hasn't worked before in the past? And if they start like bad mouthing their last person or like hating every single idea that you bring to the table, then that's kind of a red flag that they're never going to be happy and that there's a little bit more of a situation there. And so I really just pay attention to tone. I ask a lot of questions and I listen very closely to how they answer the questions and what method they structure their sentences.
Yeah, I actually love this point because for me personally too, whenever I have to work with somebody, if there's a tiny bit of like a tingle in the back of my mind that's saying, hey, like that doesn't feel it doesn't feel right, then it's just not going to be a great experience. I've worked with someone actually, I don't want to like go into too much details, but it was one of the worst experiences of my life. And when I first met the person, I something was tingling. Something was like, oh, I'm not sure if that's the right person for me, but I still went with it. And I regretted it so much. It wasn't much money, but even if it was a lot of money, I don't think I would have done it anyways. So I think really trust your gut, right? Trust your instinct when it comes to, whether or not you should work with someone or take an opportunity.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I always encourage people to, after a discovery call, take 24 hours to digest the conversation. Talk to your friend about it, talk to your partner about it, talk to your dog about it. Like just get words out and start like remembering this conversation, because you'll start to pick up on things like, wait, that dot didn't really connect with this dot and something just kind of seems odd here. And then you start backpedaling. So I don't commit too much on a discovery call because I still need to like think about if I even really like this person if I want to work with them. So.
No, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, time is like such a huge and important commodity. You don't want to just give it away to just anybody, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's so powerful. Another aspect of scarcity that I'm thinking of that might be a little bit different than what we've been talking about is the scarcity of new tools, like missing out on new tools and new platforms and, courses and programs and all these different things. What I don't know if that's something that you also talk about with your clients, but how do you even choose like a social media scheduler, like, because there's so many out there. I feel like a lot of people listening right now probably have struggled through choosing the right email marketing software, social media scheduler, e-commerce platform, like course platform, like how do you kind of go about that?
Yeah, so it's really just boils down to research and figuring out what you need and if that software can fit your needs, if you will. And same thing with social media too. I remember when Clubhouse first came out,
Oh my
I was
gosh.
experiencing like a tad bit of scarcity because everybody was on Clubhouse, but like I didn't have the bandwidth to add another social media platform, but everybody was talking about it. So I gave it a go and it wasn't for me and I moved on with my life.
Right.
So sometimes you just have to get your feet wet and try it and see. But when it comes to like softwares and like social media tools, like really just figure out like what are the top priority things that you need for your business to operate and then choose those items. And it doesn't have to be like the mainstream thing. Like there are a couple of softwares that I use. For example, I have a data scraping tool that I use and like nobody ever talks about it. I don't even remember how I stumbled upon them, but they're amazing. They're not mainstream and they're great. I have a social media scheduling tool that I use that is starting to become more popular, but I found them because they could schedule posts on Google My Business. And that was like huge for me. I needed that like hardcore. So I recorded a video about it. I told everybody about it. And then they're like, do you want to be an affiliate? And I was like, I already love you. That's great. So, you don't have to go with like the mainstream thing. Just figure out like what works for you and for your business and go with that. And it's almost like comparing that to like fashion trends, right? Like just because like this newest and hottest like fashion trend hit the market doesn't mean you have to like participate in it as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. I completely agree. Thank you so much for those tips. Okay, let's move on to the next element that you mentioned, protecting yourself legally and like contracts and everything. This is probably a huge question, but how do you know or when do you know it's the right time for you to kind of establish a company as an LLC or, like just separating your bank accounts and like all those things?
This is a great question and something that I was asking myself in the very beginning too, like, okay, I need these things. Like, when does it happen? And it happens when you start working with strangers. So in
Oh,
the
that's so
beginning,
great. Yeah.
yeah. So like in the beginning, you're gonna be working with like close friends or like people or things like that. And like, don't get me wrong, like they should definitely be buttoned up in terms of like agreement. Everything should be written in writing. Everybody agree to it. But when you start to reinvest into your business in terms of like legally, like purchasing an LLC or like whatever the logistics are for that, once you start working with strangers and you have that extra cash flow coming in, then that's the time to start like reinvesting into those processes. And that's exactly what I did. And when I got my first stranger that I started to work with on TikTok, and that's like the first thing I did right off the bat.
Amazing. Oh, and you got was it a first client on TikTok?
Yep, I
Oh
got
my
one of my
gosh.
first clients on TikTok. TikTok has been so good to me. It's every single time I say it, it's insane. But I've made like so much money from TikTok. It's like
Wow.
that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, we need to have you come on the show and talk about TikTok next time.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. And so yeah, like for the negotiation and like paying upfront and all those things. How I know this is also difficult, right? Like how do you even get someone to pay? Do you ask for the full payment upfront or do you do like 60-40, 50-50? Like how do you kind of like go through that process?
Sure. So it's broken down. The proposal is broken down into monthly investments, and
Mm,
the monthly investment is due upfront. So, like, let's say I charge, I don't know, I'm just going to throw out a number. So, everybody knows, let's say I charge like $2,500 for a package. They would need to commit to $2,500 a month for 6 months or whatever the duration of the contract is. And then once they agree to everything, then I just seamlessly send over the invoice and things like that. I haven't really gotten a whole lot of questions of like, well, when do I pay you or things like that. If I do get those questions on a discovery call, then I answer them and I just say, when I send you the invoice, that's when everything will basically kick off and begin. When I first started business, I had somebody that wanted to pay me half and half. And would you know that when the second payment was due, this person was not wanting to pay me because for whatever was going on in his false reality, he thought the job wasn't done and he was refusing to pay me. And that's when my negotiation techniques really started to kick in. And he paid me. So I'll just leave it at that. But that's why negotiations are so important and why I teach them so much in my coaching calls and through my program, and why I talk about negotiations all the time, because every single day you're in a negotiation and you commit many negotiations a day. And it's just not something that's talked about enough in freelancing world.
Oh, 100%. I think that's such a huge point. Do you mind giving us maybe just like 1 or 2 tips, like sneak peeks into the different negotiation techniques that you might have?
Sure. So definitely, before I dive into them, definitely check out Chris Voss. He was the FBI's top hostage negotiator, and he wrote the book, Never Split the Difference, Negotiate Like Your Life Depends on It. I learned a lot from him. But one of the things that I do in negotiation is that I never, and when I say negotiations, I mean, they technically begin on the discovery call, but really when you're publishing content, that's when the negotiation begins, because your counterpart is actually evaluating you into some way, shape, or form and deciding if they want to work with you. But once you get on a call or any sort of like negotiation room, I don't show like any emotion. I don't agree to anything. I don't disagree to anything. I keep everything like very, if he calls it like the DJ FM radio voice. So like, it's just like very like monotone, like all the way across. Another thing that I'll do is depending on the negotiation, I'll basically conduct an acquisition audit. So if I know that my counterpart has something negative that they are going to say about me in any way, shape, or form, I will actually say it first. And it basically like disarms them into using it against me and later on the negotiation. So those are 2 powerful ones that I use a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to like think about them. And I think that I already learned something, because I'm like, just like, like disarm them by saying something that they're going to say. That's actually such a good idea. I'm going to start doing that. Thank you so much.
It's great.
Yeah. Okay. I think there are some audience that's probably like entrepreneurs listening right now. They're probably thinking this. And I know like this is a burning question that they want to ask. So I'm just going to come out there and ask it. Do you have any tips for finding clients? Because I know a lot of people struggle with finding clients, freelancers, agency owners, like no matter who you, like even coaches, right? It's difficult to find clients when it comes to the online space because there's so many people, so much noise. Do you have any tips for us regarding that?
Yes. So I actually have an entire free webinar on my website. Just go to digitalsargeant.com/get freelance clients. And I'm sure you'll link to all of that. But one of the first things that I always talk about when it comes to getting freelance clients is to really identify the top 3 platforms you want to focus on. So don't get inundated with like all of these platforms. Like choose one for social media. Choose one for search engine optimization, choose one that's going to give you awareness, and choose one that's going to really give you the most bandwidth that you can reposition, and the one that you're most comfortable with in that case too. So once you really focus on those 3 platforms and you double down on a content strategy that positions you as an authority. So that's the key, is that really position you as authority and that you know how to do the things that you're promoting. You talk about your experience. You talk about like tell me a time situations when you've helped clients, you've grown clients, test things on your own social media. Your personal brand is your biggest case study. So talk using different hashtags and things like that, and always showing up in terms of engagement and consistently mastering the art of showing up. Once you work all of these things together, then that's when you'll start to see client acquisitions come in and people come into your inbox and engagement and things of that nature. And it's crazy for me to say again that TikTok has been my best lead, my lead generator, but it's true. And that's exactly what I did. I posted what I knew and I stayed in my lane. And then I was helping a lot of people in the process. And that's when I started to get leads and people reaching out to me and things like that.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. And do you mind sharing with us what are your 3 things? So I guess social media platform is TikTok, right?
Yeah, the sharing 3 things to get freelance clients.
No, the 3 platforms that you focus on. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 3 platforms that I focus on are, you nailed it, TikTok. That's the one for my best awareness. The second one is YouTube. I use that heavily for search engine optimization. And the third one is Instagram. That's the one I feel the most comfortable with, even though I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Instagram.
Yeah. Right.
But those are the 3 platforms that I focus on. And then anything outside of that is bonus points. So when I post on like Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, like those are bonus points. But I tripled down, I guess you could say, on those social media platforms.
Right. Okay, that's amazing. I love that. I think that's really important too, because it's very easy to, again, the scarcity part, right? Like the shiny object syndrome, getting distracted by all these different shiny things in the background. Like you said, Clubhouse, and, there are new things popping up 24/7 these days. And it's hard to kind of stay focused in your lane and stay consistent as well. So definitely so important. Have you, this is kind of like a random question. I just really would like your take on it. Have you seen or heard of any strategies or tactics that you wouldn't recommend? Because I know that there's so many people saying different things and sometimes they really contradict one another. Have you heard of any strategies that you're like, hey, 1 second, that's not what a freelancer should do, or that's not what a small business owner should focus on? Is there anything you have in mind?
Nothing that sticks out at the top of my head. I have heard, and this is one of the reasons why I got off Clubhouse, I have heard some things in Clubhouse that was bad advice for freelancers, but I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I will see that a lot of freelancers make the mistake of not getting the payment first. I have seen that. In terms of strategies, I don't think people talk enough about reviews and reputation management. I think that's a really great area that freelancers could really expand upon. And I'm trying to think of some other things.
Is that why Google My Business is so important for you as well?
Yeah. I'm Google My Business #1 fan, but yes, that's exactly right. Because on a local business level, your Google My Business listing holds so much real estate for a business. And as a freelancer, if you can really master and get to know Google My Business, you can do a lot of powerful things for businesses and business owners all over the world. And there's so many local businesses that need help. And that's a great market to tap into.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Such great tips I would never even had on the show. And I'm like, yes, I love this so much. Okay. So if someone were to start today, a social media marketing business today, what do you recommend they do? What's the first 1 or 2 things they should tackle first?
The first thing would be to get your Google My Business listing. That's actually the first thing that I did. Google My Business listing, and definitely start working on those elements that we talked about in terms of getting your business in the right direction, and start working on your personal brand, because your personal brand is your biggest case study. So if you can grow your personal brand and you can build authority for yourself on a personal brand level, then that just shows that you can do it for other people as well. And really start just to throw yourself in the trenches. Pay close attention to Facebook groups where your ideal target audience is hanging out, where they're asking questions, and just throw your hat in the ring and be an ally for others and help them along the way. Because, and I see this all the time, people are like, I'm starting from zero, I don't know anything. And it's no, you know a lot. You know way more than you think you do. If you were to give 5 tips to somebody else, they would probably be blown away. There's so much to learn in this industry. And I always say that if you were to get 100 digital marketers in a room, every single person would leave with a new bit of information or a new strategy to consider. This is a very abundant world and landscape. So just start plowing away and getting at it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I guess one thing that they could do right now is get your freebie. So do you want to share a little bit more about your freebie with us?
Sure. So the freebie is actually called Get Freelance Clients. It's a free webinar where I really dive into the logistics and the elements of getting freelance clients. It's the same exact strategy, systems, and processes that I use even today to get freelance clients and how I grew my business. And you can get that by going to my website, digitalsargeant.com/get dash freelance clients. Freelance dash clients.
Yeah, I'll put
And
it in the
you
description box.
or just go to my website and you'll be able to find your way there. But yeah, it's I think like nearly like a 25-minute webinar, just like packed with information from getting freelance clients, position yourself as an authority, and things like that.
Love that. Thank you so much. And where can people find you online besides TikTok and Instagram and everywhere?
Sure. So you should be able just to search Jennifer Sargeant, Sargeant, and my website should come up on the first page, or search Digital Sargeant. I am on all social media channels, but I really double down on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest too. Everything is just at Digital Sargeant, Sargeant.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on your Entrepreneur Resources show. I love all the tips, all the strategies, and everything you've shared. And for entrepreneur that's listening right now, in case you want to get a summary of the interview, make sure to check out our show notes, and as well as connecting on different social media channels and finding the website and get the freebie. We have our live interviews with experts here twice a week, so make sure to stay tuned and join our community. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon.